If you're listening on podcast, be sure to tune in to our YouTube channel on YouTube at Wild and Weird WV.
Welcome to Wild and Weird Radio, a Wild and Weird West Virginia podcast.
Children born with memories of past lives, details so complicated that they cannot be the product of simple guesses? Is this proof of past lives or proof of something more strange and bizarre? Join us as we look at the case for reincarnation in this episode of Wild and Weird Radio.
Welcome back to Wild and Weird Radio, everybody. It has been a great week here. We've gotten a lot of stuff going on right now. And remember, if you are watching us on YouTube right now or seeing this video pop up on Facebook, follow the link, go over to YouTube and hit the like and subscribe business over there. It's something really simple and easy that you guys can do. It's completely free and it notifies you of all of the content that we release, which if you're watching this right now, there's a good chance you're going to want to see what we're doing in the future. If you're listening to us over on audio, remember, hop over because there's certain things, certain photos and pictures that, we can only show here. And you might want to check those out from time to time. But if you're just listening to us in the car ride or doing your night shift or anything else, just sitting at your computer doing work and you're listening to us, thank you. We appreciate each and every one of you.
We have had so many people who have come over and subscribed now, Joe. Yeah. And it just keeps going up every week. And it really is awesome to me because it's the people who want to be here. That's one of the things that I really like about our subscribers. I would say our members, but it's not members. It's more like our family. And they actually show up and they want to be a part of this and push it. And that's exactly what we want. And that's what we wanted to do from day one.
Well, I mean, now, the group that shows up week in, week out for the lives.
That's what I was getting ready to say. The lives are a great example of that, man. Every Thursday at 8:00. I mean, we have people waiting in line before, we go live, which is it's awesome to see. And it's that kind of enthusiasm that makes us keep doing what we're doing. And we're going to keep doing it. So get over here and join those lives. And our numbers are, like I said, the watch hours are going up. Keep watching the stuff. And we're going to keep making even better stuff.
If you guys are ever watching us on YouTube doing the live, you've got to get engaged in that comment thread. Go ahead and jump into the live comments and you can get engaged in the show. That's the whole reason we do the live show. And you'll be able to talk to everybody that's already in the room with you. And usually that's somewhere around 30 people, give or take. And
it's fun. It's fun.
It's great.
It's just fun. I mean, we had Jeff on the last one, and that was a whole lot of fun. Jeff Byers came by and dropped in with us as a surprise guest host. And he had a lot of really cool stories to tell. And that was a great episode. If you guys haven't checked that out, you definitely want to go over and check that out. That's that guy who makes those, and those are pretty cool. Like I said, you own a few of these, right, Joe?
I own almost all of those.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Gene does some amazing work in Jeff's company. They do, they just knock it out of the park. It's the best cryptid toys out there, bar none.
Yeah.
There are some, novelty Chinese stuff that's real campy and pop culture that I absolutely adore. But when it comes to collectability and the authentic appearance based off sighting reports,
that's the stuff.
It is Creature Replica, Wild and Weird West Virginia, and then everybody else.
Oh, that is priceless. Absolutely priceless. And speaking of which, did you not just make a delivery?
Yes, I did. This past weekend, Ron got to do something equally as awesome, or even cooler on Saturday. But some stuff happened, and adulting sucks. and we had a few hours freed up, and I actually, the Mothman that's been hanging out behind me here since September,
He flew
finally
away.
found its home at the Mothman Museum and was delivered on Saturday into the custody of Mr. Jeff Walmsley for the museum to display. And it was really cool. It's going to be, he was, what's really funny is Jeff sent me a message shortly after we had left. And he's like, I just thought you were coming up here to take pictures with the statue and put it all there. He's like, I didn't know you were leaving it for the museum. I was like, yeah, man. Because I dropped it off, and because it was super busy, I took it and actually stuck it after we did the photos and everything. I took it and stuck it behind the root beer machine there at the trading post. And Jeff came back and was like, oh no, Joe left that statue. And we had talked about, he's wanting to sell some of them. And we talked about price, so he knew how much what got left behind the counter. And he was like, oh no, he left that. Oh, we got to get a hold of him. And Julie was like, no, goofball, he brought that to you. That's for the museum.
Poor
and
Jeff.
he was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. That's
Poor Jeff. Poor Jeff. Love him, but man, that man's got so much on his plate.
Oh gosh, there's so much going on.
He can't think straight.
He's so busy, and he wasn't even there in the shop that day. He just came in for a minute, and I just happened to catch him because I was just going to leave with Julie.
Yeah.
And he just happened to slide in there real quick, and all of a sudden I hear somebody yell out, "Hey, JoJo!" And I just turned around and looked, and I was like, "Hey, Jeff!"
Yeah, he was looking for you last time we was down there.
Yeah.
Well,
so tell us a little bit about your weekend extravaganza there.
My weekend was great until it was, we came home and then I got sick. But while I was there, it was good. Lexington, the comic convention and toy convention was incredible. Went down there to pick up some stuff personally from a friend of ours who has been making us some really cool things, should I say?
Oh, yeah.
Right. And, we actually, it's time travel, but Thursday you'll get to see these here, and our members will get an exclusive chance to grab one before they go on the road. That is going to be what happens here. These were designed by me, but made by Christopher Coots over at Adulting Axolotl, and the workmanship is just amazing on these. So I had this design, and I also had a shirt. You guys saw that, the Ancient Astronaut shirt, and I wore that, of course, and got to do a photo up there with Giorgio, and he loved the shirt, by the way. And we did a patch swap. So I gave him one of ours, and got one of his. So that's his. There.
Photo to put up for everybody to see it.
Yeah, that's the one I had done. So gave him one of those and gave us one of these. So I think you see it there. Yeah, you can see it, right? Yep. Yeah, there it is. See,
you can make it out.
Alienscow.com. But anyway, did that. That was a lot of fun. I picked me up a new pen, which is awesome. And I liked it when I saw it, but I liked it even more once I started really, really looking at it. The H block.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to show you the detail these guys did on this thing. If I can get in here a little bit, you can kind of see it right there. These are actually cut in. They've actually went in and did the grooves on the sides. It's actually based off of the CAD model drawings of the H block Pumapunku, which is absolutely amazing.
Very cool.
No, it's very awesome. But yes, it was a great time. Lexington, I believe that the moderators and showrunners definitely they did a wonderful job, but they definitely underestimated Mr. Tsoukalos's following, I think. Yes. He had quite the crowd for his Q&A, and it was very impressive. And my favorite part would be, let's go over the highlights real quick. Number one, there is no Project Bluebeam. Number two, the Earth is round. Number three, as far as we know, there were no secret signals sent from the moon, the whole missing Apollo mission thing. Number four, Men in Black have never contacted the History Channel, ever. Now, I thought that was interesting.
That is
because,
interesting.
because we do know that they're, that's not a myth. They really are. There really are men in black, whatever they
Right.
are, government officials, etc. But they've never warned them. They've never talked about it. So, yeah, I thought that was very interesting. That was a pretty cool little
Story's been
revelation.
around forever.
Yeah.
Yep.
Probably
And
since like season 1 of Ancient Aliens.
well, one of the most important parts is they're renewed for the next season. So we're going to be seeing that again. And
Good.
sometime in the future, we may actually, they may still be around when we make contact. So that'll be a great episode. So that'll probably give them even more years because they'll have exclusives and interviews with the aliens.
Yeah.
I hope that if they are
Absolutely.
still around when that comes out,
Yeah.
I hope the episode is just titled "I Told You So."
I told you so. Or just simply, yes.
Yeah.
That would
Yes.
be good. That would be great, wouldn't it? And he did reiterate for everyone. And I have to go over this really quick because this bothers me too. We all see the whole thing where, they say that, he says that the pyramids were built by aliens and so forth. He's never once said that on the show, by the way, ever, never. He said that the technology came from them, but, we built them. Earth people built them. Let's make no mistake about that. So that was really cool to actually hear in person. And a lot of people who are just like, what? I'm like, wow, you're not fans, huh? But I bet they are now. No, I bet they're fans now because, that's quite an experience with that guy. So that being said, all that fun stuff, let's jump over to the news desk because we have, believe it or not, alien news as well.
Surprise!
It never ends. Oh, and I do apologize for those who were wanting to see Commander Zorp at the at the Comic-Con. I did take the stuff. I really did, but it was so hot I just didn't even try. I'll be honest with you. And it's a good thing I didn't because it was so crowded. I would have probably bumped into so many people and it would have been bad, really bad. So that being said, Brandon, you're up.
So the first thing is that Ovilus apparently got his funding.
Ave.
Which is really cool. The Galileo project is moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes, and for the people who don't know what funding that is, what are you talking about, Brandon? Because it's a pretty big deal, right?
Yeah, so they found evidence of a possible crashed, how should we put this, intergalactic ship, possibly, or craft of some kind that is supposedly at the bottom of the ocean, and he needed a lot of money to actually send probes down there to look for it.
Well, what we do know is a meteorite crashed into the Pacific Ocean sometime in 2014. And what's really weird about this, besides Avi, who wants to raise this money, he's been doing this for over a year now, wants to raise this money to go and retrieve this object. We know that it was actually tracked. Like, they watched this thing for a reason. Now, what I found interesting about this, Brandon, is that we were told not too long ago that unless it was within a certain filter parameter, we didn't track it.
Yep.
What? But we tracked this one. Was it moving, at the right speed? Maybe that's it. Maybe that's because it was moving at missile speed or something like that. I don't know.
If it was, then why didn't the government shoot it down?
Yeah, good. Another good question. I don't know, but either way, this thing crashed. Kind of Transformer style, right, Joe?
What it seems like.
Yeah. So it crashes into the ocean, and now, for whatever reason, Avi thinks this thing could be not just a meteorite, but possibly a probe from another civilization or another intelligence, or even space junk of some sort from a crashed, or not crashed, but a derelict ship. Now, what's weird is, how do you jump to that conclusion? I want to know, because you don't raise $1.5 million off of a hunch.
Well, I'd say that what they were tracking had to do with its density. and had to do with the material, like what kind of a signal it was sending back. So
what did it send back? Good point.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
so
I know exactly
if there is a high likelihood that these metamaterials we heard so much of for 2 years might be comprised of a specific frequency or signature, like read back.
Good point, man. Yeah.
You know, whatever the signal is hitting it, when it comes back, it has its own distinct signature, just like practically every metal does. So I would imagine that that's a possibility. Or B, this could be a meteorite that could practically make the guy rich and fund his Galileo project well into the eons beyond now.
Oh my goodness, right? I mean, it's just an amazing story in its own, though, that, you know, he becomes aware of this thing in 2019. And we all know that Loeb is famous for his I guess
claims,
speculation, his claims, you know, that some of these things, including the Mothman, may have been an extraterrestrial probe, which maybe, I mean, you know, we threw that around, but we're not Harvard, you know, physicists and astrophysicists, so it doesn't matter what we say. But I find it interesting that these kind of people are actually interested in thinking along those lines.
I think it's interesting how he says he wants to do it too.
Yeah.
They're going to use sand sifters with magnets, and they're going to literally just be sifting sand until they find it. And apparently, the article also says the meteorite was only 1.5 feet wide, but they were able to track it.
That is amazing to me. Absolutely amazing to me.
They didn't know balloons were flying over America.
Right. It just blows my mind. So mind is at this point.
Again, like I'm going to take a shot in the dark and say it has to do with density.
Dude, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see because, you know, it's off to pull this thing out now because they have funding, which is wonderful. And, you know, in other related news, which I thought was kind of coincidental, but it really isn't such a thing as a coincidence when it comes to this stuff, I don't think anymore. We heard that a new researcher that's working for the Galileo project came out and was talking about some of her work with a program that those guys are also working called Project Exoprobe. And Exoprobe is actually part of their. I'm not going to call SETI because it's not SETI. This is something way different. They're looking for actual technosignatures, either past technosignatures or current technosignatures, meaning either debris from an alien spacecraft floating around the planet or an actual functioning alien spacecraft floating around the planet, I guess, or a probe, as Avi likes to think. But either way, yeah, she's been working with them for a while, and basically, you know, the other scientists are just giving her heck, you know, because you know, how dare her think outside the box? And I just, you know,
anytime you get one of these, you know, people with a doctorate that will break away from the branch, so to speak, and start going either contraflow or in a different direction, there's always resistance. Everybody's, you know, we've said this on the show before, and it's a very common phrase in the history circles, and it's that history and science both progress one funeral at a time.
It's true. It's true.
And, you know, it's people have their ways they're stuck in, and anything that is against or goes against the grain there is just going to be, you know, fought.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Beatrice Villarreal is her name. So keep watching out for her, because I have a feeling we're going to hear a lot about her in the future. And, you know, my hat's off to her for standing up. And, you know, first of all, it's a woman. And that is in its own in the school of, you know, the grand college of male dominated everything when it comes to academia. And it's true. It really is. She's probably taken a lot of crap based on that too. So like I said, my hat's off to her. I don't have a hat on, but you know what I mean. That's figure of speech. But way to go, her. And I can't wait to see what they come up with. So be looking for her and be looking for that, news on the XO Probe project.
Hopefully soon.
Yes. What else we got?
The other thing that was interesting was there was a Greek farmer who made a pretty astonishing discovery. He was digging in his field of olive trees, and he accidentally uncovered a 3,400-year-old Minoan tomb.
Wait. Okay. So I'm just thinking about this because I remember, having a garden and digging, stuff. I never once dug into an opening that turned into a tomb. How about you, Joe? Anything like that in your garden?
Dug into an old root cellar once, but
not a tomb, right?
Not a tomb.
Not a tomb or underground city or anything.
No.
So I can't imagine that. So what do they?
Well, around here, you could dig in your garden and find an Indian mound of some kind.
I would be very careful doing that. But I guess you could possibly do that. It's kind of like, you're not supposed to dig or call before you dig, with a gas company and electric company, but you can't call your ancient ancestors before you dig and say, hey, I'm going to dig over here. You guys down there.
But you can if you have the right substances.
I guess you could. Maybe. Anything else we've got going on, guys?
I think that wraps us up on the news.
Wrap it up. All right. I'm closing the news desk. And here we go. That was exciting.
Well, guys, we've got a really entertaining show for you guys prepared tonight. We've touched on this in the past. We are doing a little bit more of a deep dive, focusing purely on reincarnation and past lives.
It's a little newer. Yeah, the other one we did was the past life thing. It was just kind of a broad spectrum bunch of stories, but there's been a little bit of news since we did that too. So, but it's an interesting topic, and we wanted to come at it with a little different angle. We're going to go at it from every angle, actually, that we can really think of. We're going from case studies to, to spiritual beliefs, to everything. So just throw it all on the table and then let you guys make up your own mind. At the end, we really don't care what you believe, to be honest. Is that about right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I think once you see the data, though, it's going to be really hard to deny that something's going on. We just don't know what the something is.
Well, when we start looking into some of this data and we start looking at surveys that were polled, the reincarnation topic, it tends to also wrap in very heavily with various religious beliefs. You've got tons of Eastern beliefs that all revolve around reincarnation. There's many Western beliefs that have some kind of connection or some kind of belief in reincarnation. But, contrary to what a lot of popular theory would be, everybody always goes at the Christians because of monotheistic beliefs and kind of being staunch, hard-nosed about certain things. But according to a Reader's Digest survey, which, you can always trust those, it's the Reader's Digest.
It's better than nothing, I guess, right? That's the way I see it.
They say about 29% of Judeo-Christians actually believe in reincarnations, and around 10% of them report being able to recall their own past lives.
I would say that's 29% of the Judeo-Christian readers of the Reader's Digest.
Right.
That'd be the probably more accurate.
That's very likely what it was, unless they went out and they were just doing a street poll.
Yeah, that's
going out, and because I've seen some of those being done before in bigger cities.
Yeah.
But normally those polls are only consisting of about 100 people, and it starts off with a leading question like, "Hey, would you do this poll? Blah blah blah. Are you a Christian?" If the answer is no, okay, next. And then they go and they find somebody that says yes, and then they just, mark wherever it goes.
Sure.
But reincarnation as a whole it's a very interesting topic. Mm-hmm. It's hard to just outright say it doesn't happen, but at the same point, it's almost as equally as hard to say that it does.
Is it? I mean, it's not for me.
It's not for you, but it is for me.
Yeah, it is, because why is that? Why do you think that is? I'd like to know. Why do you think that is? That might help the audience.
What the difference between you and me is?
No, we know what the difference between you and me is, but no, I mean the way of thinking. Let's put it that way. What makes it easier to understand on my end versus it not so much on your end? What do you have the hang up on it? That's what I'm asking.
My hang up with it is that even though I've studied it, even though I've researched it, and even though I've done countless hours of meditation, I've never once experienced some form of past life experience.
Okay. Well, that's fair. That's perfectly fair. But then again, we've not done, any, what is it, as Brandon would say, any artificial ways to talk to our ancestors either.
Right.
So,
that's right. Yeah. I haven't
maybe that
I've tripped on some psychedelics to jump back in the pool there. But that's just me.
No, I agree.
Have I had experiences that I've had some dreams, but it wasn't past life. It was more like ancestors coming and speaking more than it was past lives. If that makes sense.
I can tell you about a past life dream that I had one time. 100% convinced it was a past life dream.
Let's go for it. We don't have a Tales of the Wild and Weird tonight. We'll just use you.
So it was like,
wait, I'll roll the graphic.
Like maybe.
Here we go. Roll the graphic. Okay, that should be enough time.
So in the dream, I was walking through ancient Egypt, and I was walking past. It was like an alley, and there were like these mud brick houses lining the streets, and they were constructing these big monuments. I think one might have been a pyramid, and there were like some sphinxes that were being chiseled. I remember seeing people wearing the knee-length skirts that the Egyptians are always depicted wearing, and the hieroglyphs. And people had the dark hair and the dark skin. I was just walking around like that. I remember feeling the heat of the sun and the dryness of the air on my face. It was very graphic.
That's pretty cool. How long ago did you have that?
Maybe like 10 years or so ago.
So it's very vivid, still in your mind. So it's not just a typical dream is what you're getting at. So it's something that registered pretty deep. That's impressive. I have one question. Did you see me?
No.
Just making sure. Just had to ask. Just had to clarify. That's all. Well, you wouldn't know me, but had to clarify.
Yeah, Ron would have been an alien back then.
Never mind.
Ron would have been in a UFO somewhere handing out technology.
That's more accurate, actually. Yes.
But yeah, for me, that's kind of where I
like that though.
My hang up is like I've studied it. Like when I was going through and doing all my training with ministry and everything, I wanted to understand every major world religion because I didn't want to be ignorant of it. I'd seen too many people go out and try to witness, is the Judeo-Christianist term, to preach the gospel to other faiths, and just did it without any consideration for the person that they're speaking to and their background and their cultural history.
Right. Like the Borg, they assimilated them.
Right. So like I wanted to be more coming at it from an angle of, listen, I understand you and I'm not ignorant to your beliefs. I'm not ignorant to your faith. And I want to share with you so that you're not ignorant of mine.
Right.
And, when I was doing those things, I tested stuff. You're crazy if you don't. I guess a lot of people think that like, oh, you're opening up windows or whatever. Yeah, you're
gonna open up the portal to the devil. He gonna get you.
I don't believe in that kind of stuff at all.
Devil gonna get you.
So, I mean, can it happen? Yes. But like, can I do that by studying and trying to understand? No, something cannot take what doesn't belong to it.
It's
So,
probably going to be out of a
you have
book
to be.
that, that you didn't buy at the library. That's what I'm getting at.
yeah, you're right. So,
Yeah. Go ahead,
that's for me, that's where my hang up is. I never, even though I sought it out, even though I tested it, there was just never any return.
Brandon, you going to say something?
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I don't think you can get anything negative from studying unless you start doing the rituals and conjuring things and whatnot. That's the only way that I think you can actually cause
no conjuring. No conjuring. That's the rule. No conjuring.
Right.
Divination, stuff like that.
I don't know. Everybody divines something. Like I did that the other day. I was like, man, where did I put that? I closed my eyes and I thought about it. I'm like, oh, there it is. There's some people who believe that literally you are having a psychic experience when you do that you're actually, whatever, they actually did a study on this, and they think that you're using whatever part of the brain that is responsible for remote viewing when you do that. So everybody who like loses their keys, can't find them, you close your eyes and you're like, oh, there they are. You're actually remote viewing. So you're divining. You evil person. Yeah.
But see, those kind of things make sense though. Like I can follow that stuff. But I just said, like, even though I understand the principles and everything behind reincarnation, I understand the beliefs behind it. And people do have these experiences. I'll never in a million years tell somebody that they did not experience what they're saying they experienced.
Sure.
Because it is a very real event to them. But again, it's just me not having that experience.
Let's go over some of those experiences. Let's hear some of the experiences, and then let's hear some of the the skepticism, and then let's put it all together and come up with what we think. How's that?
All right, sounds good. So the first one that we've got up here on the desk is the case of baby Sam, which is also called Baby Daddy.
Yeah. I labeled these for us. So I thought it'd be funny, but Baby Daddy is a really good example of exactly what happens here. And it is a weird case. Okay.
And this didn't take part in any backwood of Appalachia.
This is weird.
This is just the name of it. And when you hear the story, you'll understand.
It's a weird case.
So in the case of baby Sam, he told his father that he used to change his diapers. Meaning that the baby used to change his father's diapers, and that the baby had been speaking full sentences and able to answer questions since 18 months old.
Wow.
Eventually, the family pieced together the incredible story that Sam believed he had been his father's father and that he had returned through a portal. And when asked how he got there, he answered, I just went whoosh and came out the portal. And he would go on to tell how his sister had turned into a fish. Sam's grandfather had a sister who was murdered 60 years prior. Her body was found in San Francisco Bay, sleeping with the fishes.
Yep.
When asked how he died, he grabbed the top of his head as if he was in pain. Sam's grandfather had died of cerebral hemorrhaging.
Yeah, he had a cerebral hemorrhage. And supposedly this kid, when asked, how did you die? He grabs the back of his head and acts like he's in pain. So that's a weird one, right?
It is.
I mean,
that is a very strange case because the ones that involve the kids with me,
those are the best
the ones that I found the most compelling. Those
are really literally the only ones that I'm more concerned with. And why I say that is because the kids are less inclined to be susceptible to some, like cryptonesia. You know what that is, right? Cryptonesia. Yeah. That's where you forget that you read something years later, and and you remember it as a memory, basically.
Yes.
So that's not gonna happen with a kid. We're talking about you just learned how to talk. So where are they getting that kind of information from? That's the big question. I mean, you have kids that are about this age. Do you tell me what would you do? If one of your kids pulled this trick? I mean,
I'd start asking questions.
Yeah.
Just as an inquisitive individual, I would start probing. I'm like, all right, tell me more.
Yeah.
You know, that's just the natural. And that's the same thing that Sam's parents did. They started getting more and more of the story and piecing it all together.
Yep.
And, you know, there's, again, very compelling story because this is a kid, you know, and like Ron mentioned, you're not experiencing cryptonesia. This isn't something that the kid watched, because when this took place, you didn't have tablets in front of their face. So this isn't something they watched on the internet. This is something that just started happening.
Yep.
And at 18 months old.
Yeah, and an 18 months old, which is
my twins are 18 months old. I couldn't imagine them telling me a story like that.
Right?
Yeah.
I'd be kind of terrified, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, there are those who believe that that's why we don't talk. You know, that's why it takes us so long. And if you ever, you know this, you watched your kid grow up, okay? You saw the stages. There's that really cry stage. It's almost like they're trying to tell you something desperately at times. And sometimes it's not, I just want more milk. Sometimes they're just screaming for no reason whatsoever, you know. Who knows?
Yeah, or they start babbling like they're trying to tell you a story.
Who honestly knows, you know? I mean, that's just, I'm just saying there's definitely that.
There is that. There are people, there are people that do believe that is why babies don't start talking earlier, is because you know, it would kind of break the universal cycle.
It would break time. There are laws, you know, that's what I think. Okay, everybody wants to know what I think. Everybody wants to know what I believe. Here's one for you that's very rare, but I'll tell you what I believe about this. There are universal laws, and those laws seem to apply pretty much to all of us. Like, I don't know who made them. You can make up your own mind on that. And that's in the air. Call it God, call it a force, call it whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really matter to me what you call it. But there is something that keeps everything moving the way that it should move. And it's not just the random flow of atoms and gravity. That's not what does it. So time is no different. And I know time doesn't exist, Ron. You know, time actually does exist. As long as we're moving, time exists. If we don't move, then no, time doesn't exist. But we are still moving. The whole universe is moving right now, right?
I mean, the universe is moving. We're going through a course. That's you know, it's one of the things about ghosts. It's that I think is really funny, because I don't think that when we go out and we're doing these paranormal investigations and stuff, that we're actually talking to ghosts often. A lot of people think they're talking to ghosts. I think that like we're more or less tapping into a transient energy in the majority of cases. And yeah, but it goes back to that whole thing, like, you know, this point in time, and it becomes this like cyclical thing in time, because time's not linear. That's what we're experiencing.
Careful now, you'll hurt people's heads.
I know. We're experiencing something that had already happened, essentially.
A fixed point in time.
Yep.
Like Doctor Who says.
Yeah. But there are those ones, like the one at the deep end, where, you know, you got that one weird anomaly.
Say it again. It's a temporal anomaly.
It is.
That is not a haunting. It is a temporal anomaly zone. That's what it is.
I agree, 100%.
If there is ever evidence of a place, well, I'd say Skinwalker Ranch is probably one too.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, places like that. But anyway, let's get back to the subject, because we can go back down this rabbit hole and never come back out. Probably
right.
Go
Let's do that on a live show.
Yeah, exactly. We'll do that on a live show. So Dr. Jim Tucker was a child psychiatrist, and he became interested in the research being carried out at the Division of Perceptual Studies at the University of Virginia. So he began working with this division in 1996. Dr. Tucker took over the past life research project in 2002. The UVA team claimed more than 2,500 documented cases of children from all over the world who had vivid memories of former lives. Now, they questioned these kids. They did extensive interviews. They went through, you know, the family. Is there any sign of fraud? Is there any sign of hoax? Are we been played? And Out of all those, there was 2,500 documents. These ones that they documented, yeah, they're legit, as legit can be. They all passed the test. So that's not one case. That's not two cases or 10. That's 2,500 documented cases where these people, these kids, these were all kids, were relating things that there is no way on earth that they should physically know. They couldn't.
So what that does is it raises the question of, does everyone experience this? Or is it just a select few?
Right.
You know, because we've had roughly like 100 billion people on planet Earth, like from the inception of people, like to date. And
isn't there a belief, Joe, in a spiritual belief? It's a Jewish belief, right? That there's X amount of souls or something. Isn't that part of the one of the things? I can't remember what it's called.
That right off the top of my head, that is a oh gosh, it's one of the Christian sects. I can't remember exactly which one it is, but it's but it's 4,800.
Really?
Oh, Seventh-day Adventist?
Yes, that might be them. I can't remember exactly which one it is right now, but it's 4,800 is the exact number for that specific group. But I don't. That's the only one I know that has like a set number.
Yeah, I don't know of a set number. I just knew that there was an ancient sect that believed that there was X amount of actual souls.
Oh, like there were only so many souls generated and they just recycle?
Yeah, there's recycle, constantly recycle.
It could be, because there's been a lot of Hebrew cults over the years.
There have been.
Right.
And then they fade away.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, you know, I mean, this isn't like a new kind of thing. That's what I'm getting at. It's like
it's old.
It's ancient. Is humanity, basically, you know, this quest for, you know, the belief that of reincarnation. Look at Egypt. You mentioned Egypt earlier. That's a prime example. I mean, these guys were trying to wrap their bodies up so they could come back and jump inside of them. I mean, I don't know how good they thought their bodies were going to be, you know, stuffed full of sawdust with all the organs in canopic jars, but, you know, so we don't really know if there's X amount of souls is what we're saying.
Right.
So which is fine by me, because you know, a quick internet search is going to tell you there are people who believe there are, and there are people who believe there are not. So you know,
that would be kind of scary, because that means at some point there's going to be a lot of soulless people running around.
Right, soulless people, just like the one, like if you go to Walmart late. I remember now they don't do it because they're not open 24 hours, but
yeah, they're not
back when they were open 24 hours. Well, there's a reason. And I think it's not because of 2020. It's not. What happened was that's when the MIB, they figured out that all the aliens and the soulless beings that wander the earth.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's what they come out at. So they just like, you know, we can't stop them. So they just shut it down. That's why it's not open now.
Have you ever been to Huntington Walmart past 11 p.m.?
Dude. I've seen things at Walmarts at 2:00 in the morning that God himself would shudder.
Yep. South Charleston Walmart, the good Lord. Now, you want to talk about a crazy Walmart? Let's go down to the Mobile, Alabama Walmart. When I lived down in Pensacola, and we'd run over there occasionally. Whoo, boy.
Well, we have gone off the rails again. That's why everyone listens to this great show.
Go ahead, Ron. Go ahead and tackle the movie star story.
Oh, gosh, the movie star. I love it. This is the great one. So the division that we're talking about, the Division of Perceptual Studies at the University of Virginia. So a case comes through, and it's a child by the name of Ryan. And this kid would wake up at 2:00 in the morning screaming, according to his mother. And he always wanted her to take him to, quote, the house where he lived before. And in limited words, he told her of this home that he had in Hollywood. It was a big mansion. He had fast, fancy cars, a pool. He told her all, you know, this basic lavish lifestyle, right? And he said, I can't live in these conditions. My last home was much better. Hey, Joe, what would you do if your kid like just started dissing everything you're giving him,
Oh gosh.
because he's a movie star.
I can imagine the sudden red beep that goes through your head when that would happen.
Well, she was pretty calm about the whole thing, and she probably deserves Mother of the Year for that. But she was pretty calm about that whole thing. And he just kept telling her, he was homesick and he would get really frustrated, she said. And she said it really reminded her of like an old man who couldn't remember the details of his life, which is, kind of what I'm saying. So she decided to support this. So she went to the library and she got some books about old Hollywood. And she thought that showing him these would, kind of calm him down, right? Kind of, chill him out, because he's talking about old Hollywood and blah, blah, blah. So she hoped it would calm him down, but it didn't, because as she flipped open one of these pages, he became even more excited. And one of the books had a still picture from a film called Night After Night. And Ryan stopped her and started screaming and pointing at the picture and said, "Mama, that guy, that's me, the old me. The old me." Okay. This is a kid, guys. This is a kid. And I don't know, but she said, "I was shocked." And she admits, "I never thought that we'd find the person he thought he was." Ryan claimed to be Hollywood agent Marty Martin, who made an unbilled cameo in Night After Night. His mother spoke with Dr. Tucker again, who interviewed Ryan. And then the family contacted Martin's daughter. This was where it gets weird. Twilight Zone. Weird. She met with Dr. Tucker and his mother and Ryan, and along with the public records, they confirmed more than 50 details that Ryan had reported about her father's life, from his work history to the location and contents of his home.
That's wild.
It's hard, really hard, to look at the skeptic's response to this and not say what, because the skeptic's response is that these are all just they're false memories. That's what they want to tell us. They're all just false memories, that these are somehow these kids are getting these memories. Where did kid get memories about this? 50 points.
Yeah, I mean, it could
go where would a kid see an obscure movie from 1932?
Because he's not a lead, guys. He was not a lead actor.
He was a walk-on cameo that was not billed, which means he wasn't in the credits. He was just there, and they needed a backgrounder, and he was it.
Well, even if he was in the credits, who cares? The point is, he's not the main actor. We're not talking about like some, it's not like Martin Sheen or, right, something like that. This is just a guy who walks in and there he is, and there he's off screen. I mean, it's just literally that fast. But this kid identified with that person. Why?
There are a lot of people that say that are proponents of the simulation theory.
Good point.
That will reference cases like these as, it's just part of the simulation, and the data, this person, we'll just call him an NPC, and this suddenly became a playable character. And now has all this memory that aren't necessarily his. So I mean, that's one perspective. But again, we're dealing with another child who has these accounts, which is fascinating.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, to me, it's just, I don't know. I can't find a logical explanation for 50 points. And then, you have to wonder, well, are we talking about reincarnation? Or are we talking about something a little more esoteric? Are we talking about, tapping into this, like the Akashic records?
Akashic record.
Yeah. Are we talking about something like that? Or are these kids just, sometime between sleep and wake, they're going into that trance-like state, and they're, they tap into this past Akashic record, memory of this person. But then you wonder, well, why did they tap into that past, particular person, right?
Yeah.
Well,
It's
maybe
possible that a human spirit can possess another human.
that's a good thought. That's a very good thought. Or that two things can occupy the same space, so to speak,
Without exploding into pink mist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it only lasts for a small period of time. So,
Right. Yeah, because it's like they have two personalities, like a switch flips, and they'll start talking about their past life and what they used to do and stuff.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then these kids generally, like you were saying, a switch flips, suddenly they're no longer talking about the past life anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like the past, that whole
It's
thing,
gone.
that phase, whatever it was that lingered is gone all of a sudden.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
now this kid no longer will speak of the past life. It's like one morning they just wake up and it's gone.
Yeah,
Well,
they
why
can't
don't-
even remember talking about it.
I mean, this was one of the best ones for me because it's like 50 points. That's impressive. But go over one that we talked about before, Joe. That's a very interesting one, and that would be the Leininger case.
Yeah, the Leininger case is one of the most fascinating cases for me. And again, we have spoke about this one previously on the show, I think more than once even.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I know that this was one that Wayne was also very, very caught up in. He loved this story. It was very fascinating. So it goes like this. Bruce and Andrea Leininger first realized that James, their son, had these memories when he began to wake up from nightmares, and he was yelling things like airplane crash, plane on fire, little man can't get out. He also knew the details about World War II aircraft that would seem pretty well impossible for toddlers to know. So, for instance, one of these things being that there was an object at the bottom of a toy plane that was supposed to be a bomb, and James corrected her and said that it was a drop tank. And another time he said that his parents were watching a History Channel documentary, and the narrator called a Japanese plane a Zero, and James insisted that it was a Tony. In both cases, he was right.
Wow.
Now, it's not outside of possibility for little boys to get fascinated with different things. I know my son can go off with dinosaurs and different types of cars, but specific components of an aircraft, like a drop tank, or referencing an aircraft's nickname, calling him a Tony, for example. The boy said that he had also been named James in a previous life, and that he had flown off of a ship named the Natoma. The Leiningers discovered in World War II an aircraft carrier called the USS Natoma Bay. In the squadron was a pilot named James Houston, who had been killed in action over the Pacific. James talked incessantly about his plane crashing, and he was disturbed by a nightmare a few times a week. His desperate mother contacted past life therapist Carol Bowman for help. Bowman told Andrea not to dismiss what James was saying and to assure him that whatever had happened had occurred in another life and another body, and that he was safe now. Andrea followed her advice, and James' dreams diminished, and his parents co-authored Soul Survivor, a 2009 book about their family's history.
Mm-hmm.
So that case is extremely compelling, just as compelling as some of the other kids that we had already previously read, because he knows intimate details, he knows specifics, and naming off like battleships. Like the Natoma Bay was not something that was like when you're going through your history class or even reading history books, you're not going to hear much about this ship. So you're only going to see it like if you specifically look up the Natoma Bay.
And there it is, USS Natoma Bay, CVE 62. And that is, according to him, the origin of his flight. And he also went on to say that, he was shot down. It's just an amazing, I don't want to call it a tale. It's just an amazing story.
Yep.
if you get down into it. And I'll pull up. Let's see. I think this is.
Well, one of the
Yeah.
wildest things about it too is that, you know, at the age of 18 months, James was taken to a flight museum and he was fascinated by the aircraft. Like he was just enamored, you know. It was one of those things where, like, when I took my kid to go see the dinosaurs and stuff, he was just like, oh, you know. But this was a different kind of fixation. In all probability, this kid was probably seeing things that recalled that memory.
Right. And that's that's one of the skeptics' claims, is that his father took him there and basically it programmed him. Yeah, I don't care how much interest
At
you
18 months, you're not going to
no
retain that kind of data. You're not going to know, oh, that's a drop tank.
No.
Oh, you know, that's not a zero. That's a
No.
Tony.
That's not going to happen.
No.
So that's a very weak analysis. According to James, he had a lot of detail, and eventually they did find out where he crashed. And there's the map showing the mission and the last flight. That was in 1945. So
from 1945, let's just speculate a minute. We're dealing with a reincarnation kind of scenario here. What happened between 45 and the early 2000s?
where was he?
Yeah, where was he for 50 plus years?
See, now that makes it. See, that is a very good question, in my opinion. And that's an uncomfortable thing for some people, because there's those who believe, well, you're either here or you're gone, or you're wherever you're going to be going, and it's just not that black and white, is it? I mean, that's what it seems to be. It would seem that there's this in between state. Maybe he's, I don't know. Who even knows? I mean, what time is? Could he have been, somewhere else at that time?
Well, a lot of religions say that time on the
life.
other side doesn't flow like it does here.
Exactly. So, there could be that too. And there's a transcript of some of the more interesting parts of the conversation and where they arose from. You'll see where he said that, before I was born, I was a pilot and my airplane got shot in the engine and it crashed in the water. And that's how I died. So the source of that was James, right? Well,
Yep.
here's the verification. The memoir of a veteran who saw Hudson's plane get hit. James's father also talked to 3 eyewitnesses. One later told a television interviewer, I saw the hit. I would say he was hit head on. Yeah, right in the middle of the engine, which is exactly what he drew in his little picture that we showed there earlier. The narration states that James may have been one of the pilots who died in the Battle of Iwo Jima. So that was on a narration of one of the things that they had watched. There's just more and more of it. The history of the Composite Squadron 81, VC 81, and the Aircraft Action Report. There's so much stuff that just goes on and says, that this is a valid thing. These are actual records and comments from, real sources. These aren't just things that someone made up. They could never have known this stuff organically. You know what I mean?
Right.
This isn't stuff that you could just pull out and be like, oh, yeah, well, there you go. That's not going to happen with this stuff. So what happened? How did it happen? I think that's the better question is how did it happen? Not what happened, because we know there's an information exchange of some sort. And that information was once in a living soul, in a living being's body. Now, whether the soul took that with it, took that knowledge with it, now that's fascinating to me. That's absolutely fascinating to me.
I wonder too, because everybody knows that. Well, anybody interested in the paranormal knows that kids are more connected psychically to spirits and whatnot. Yeah. Maybe they're talking to spirits who are giving them this information so they can reach out to family or something and, get that final closure they need to move over to the
That's
other
an
side.
Interesting theory. Yeah, that's an interesting thought. That's a very interesting thought. You know, the skeptical assessment of the whole thing is that James Leininger's his parents, of course, you know, said they never watched any documentaries, no World War II documentaries, never talked about military histories, anything like that, right?
Right.
I was 18 months of age. James, they took him to the flight museum, like you said. And according to, you know, this guy, he thinks that it's probably just, you know, that he went to the museum. He absorbed some of this stuff. And, you know, but come on, what do you learn in a museum, dude? You don't learn that stuff in a
Rowan
museum.
goes and saw the dinosaurs and all that stuff.
Does he think he's a paleontologist? Does he think he's, you know, some kind of famous paleontologist that's, you know, no longer with us? No,
Doctor from Jurassic Park.
Oh,
right, Dr.
Heyman.
Grant.
Yeah, he's Heyman.
Yeah, Hammond back to life.
That's it. But he says in 2000, when he was 22 months old, this is their statement. Okay, his father took him to the Kavanaugh Flight Museum outside of Dallas. They were living in Texas at the time, and James was fascinated by the planes, and particularly by the World War II exhibit. And he was fascinated by it, right? So when they left after 3 hours, James had some toy planes as well as a video called "It's a Kind of Magic." It's about the Blue Angels. Okay. It was his Blue Angels video. Now he watched it repeatedly. It's, you know, how those kids do. They get it, you know, on one video, it's forever when we play it. You know, yeah, exactly. But, you know, the thing is, that's the Blue Angels, guys.
Those are modern aircraft.
Mr. Skeptic doesn't seem to understand there's a difference between 1940 some aircraft, 45 aircraft, and the Blue Angels. Okay, that's
not Blue Angels now, aren't they just old Hornets? Isn't that what they use at the moment?
I don't know what they use now.
They were using 16s for a while.
I'm not sure what they use now. It's more likely, you know, that in my opinion, I think, and Joe's opinion, that it was just a catalyst kind of situation. Fraud must always be considered, they said, and often cannot be ruled out definitively. In this case, motivation for a hoax appears unlikely. James's parents did eventually write a book about their experience that was published when James was 11 years old. I would have too, by the way, just going to say. It's an incredible story, and it deserves to be told. So it seems unlikely, though, that this led to a wholesale fraud from the beginning. The uncertain payoff of a book at some point in the future would hardly seem worth the years of fraud. And that's true. There's no way you'd put yourself through this. A fraud had no other potential benefit and carried a substantial risk of including derision from families and friends and even strangers. Beyond that, if James's parents were perpetuating a fraud, they passed up a golden opportunity to present their story to the world during their interview for the ABC News Strange Mysteries program. Instead of telling how their son was remembering the life of pilot James Huston, they only said that he appeared to be recalling the life of a World War II pilot who had not been identified. Now, a subsequent interview years later, they would tell the whole story and, you know, so forth and so on. But the point is, they passed up, you know, big time right there. Worldwide attention at the time. They didn't care. I mean, if you were trying to go big, you would have went big right there, I would have thought.
So we've covered some of these stories where you've got kids recounting past lives and whatnot, but one of the other factors of reincarnation is, you know, the standing point behind Hinduism is that, you know, when you pass, you're reincarnated, and one of the tenets of Buddhism is that when you pass, you're reincarnated not just as another person, but as something else. You'll come back as an animal, or you can come back as another person. And it is a cycle until you reach a certain level of enlightenment.
Right.
You know, you're going through these reincarnations for the purpose of refinement or perfection. So what do you guys think about that?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'll be straight up with you. I thought about that years ago. Every time I killed a fly, I always wondered if that was someone who deserved it. Did I just kill Hitler? I mean, these things go through your head.
If that's the case, I look at every carpenter bee and I'm like, you must be the reincarnated Hitler.
Right. Right. I mean, how many times does Hitler get to be a bee or a spider or a fly? There are things like that. Maybe that's,
Maggot
yeah, right.
feasting on fecal matter.
Could be. I mean, I don't know, but I'm just saying, I'm not going to rule it out. I don't have any proof or disproof. I know my cats look at me all funny sometimes, and I don't like to get dressed in front of them. I don't know who that was. Just saying, you can't be too safe. So, so folks, if you got animals, just watch what you do in front of them. Don't trust them.
It could
Don't
be
trust
grandma.
them. They could be. You don't know.
But,
that could be grandma, grandpa. Who knows?
When you're looking at it from a religious standpoint, which is really the root of where the majority of people are gonna look at this lens through.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Hindu, which is a major world religion.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's one of their tenets, and the same thing with Buddhism. There are many other religions that also believe in the actions of reincarnation, but those are probably two of the more prevalent. And it's when you look and you listen to some of these stories from these people from around the world who have experienced these memories, it's hard to throw out with the bathwater. But like the thing for me is like, all right, well, if we're being reincarnated, is it purely as people? And because if that's the case, that would explain why all these memories from these kids are of other people and not like, I'm a cow. I was a cow in my last life and now I'm a boy.
Right.
And, you start asking, like, the story gets real boring when you said, so what did you do? I chewed cud all day, Mom.
Right.
If that's the case, I think most kids, most toddlers in particular, are probably house cats since they like to knock things off tables.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of cats in the world. So
Climb the curtains.
maybe.
Oh, yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
Just, I don't know. But no, I mean, it's definitely a possibility. But like you said, I don't see much evidence that actually, we don't have as much evidence of that as we have of someone who physically.
Of the past life stuff, more or less.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
is past life and reincarnation? Because here's a good question. Is past life and reincarnation the same thing?
Also a good question.
Like, for example, what I'm saying, past life, there have been some scientific advancements on what is called genetic memory.
Mm-hmm.
Like Assassin's Creed.
Well, yeah, Assassin's Creed, the whole genre of that game was based off of a study that was done back then that now has actually really produced some legitimate fruit, saying that, humans as a whole throughout our course of evolution have retained certain information in our DNA that gives us innate abilities to be able to do X, Y, and Z. Just like with, for example, like some gazelles, they have to walk within moments of coming out. They have that genetic memory that, okay, like even though they're a baby, they know I'm going to get eaten if I don't get off the ground. How would they know that otherwise? Because it's not like they just pop out and it's like, oh, first thing on my mind would be like, why did I just fall from 4 feet in the air and hit the ground? But again, I'm not a gazelle or a giraffe.
At least you haven't been one for a long time anyway.
Yeah.
Also, like animals that have been like caged and they get released and suddenly they know how to migrate. They know exactly where to go.
So it makes that kind of stuff makes sense. It tracks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can follow that because they've got some documentation behind it, just as much documentation as there is really with these kids.
Yeah.
And it looks as if it's possible that these memories, they could have been somehow related, like fourth cousin 3 times removed. to this guy, and you're not going to know that unless you're getting on Ancestry or Family Tree or one of those other websites, because when families start deviating so far, you're going to lose track of them.
Yeah.
Nobody's family, especially these days, are going to be really tight knit anyway. And those connections to cousins and third cousins and second, further on down the line, you don't have those anymore like it used to be.
Right.
Because everybody's spread out across the country 5 or 6 different directions, sometimes around the world, and then come back. And you're not going to know that. Like, so could James, little boy James, have been some way related to James the pilot? Could he have been a distant cousin, and that memory is imprinted on the DNA some way?
Maybe.
But
no, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they check that as far as relation goes or not, but that's interesting. But I do have one case for you where I can say nope. And that is a very interesting case. And probably one of the more documented cases that really just absolutely changed someone's life, in my opinion. I think it's pretty crazy. So in 1987, before his death, Dezung Rinpoche III gathered his advisors together and related to them that he would be returning and would be, quote, born in Seattle this time. Okay. So in 1989, Sonam Wangdu was born in Seattle. He was only 2 years old when he realized he was actually the 4th reincarnation of the original Tibetan Lama, Dezung Rinpoche the first. Through a culmination of several strange signs, synchronicities, including visions of his own mother and her own Lama, the proof was enough that in 1996, the boy, who by now was answering to Tulukula, which means reincarnation, that makes sense, would leave his country and family to be raised by monks while studying Tibetan Buddhism in Kathmandu, Nepal, and eventually he would become the head of a monastery there as the 4th reincarnation of Dezung Rinpoche the first. He is now number 4 in succession. Now, the crazy thing about this is that when these happen, this is, when the lamas pass and the new lama, reincarnates, before they go, they usually give a clue.
Yeah.
Like they know where they're going to go. Like they know, well, I'm going to jump over here now. How do they know that? Like, can you control to some point and guide, where you're going to land, so to speak? Because they kind of think that that's exactly what you do. And then they have, their advisors that will go out and follow these signs. And they didn't even mention all of them, but there are tons of signs that they literally have to follow. And it leads them, to where these people are. And those, it just blows my mind how this works.
That's part of the knowledge you obtain when you reach nirvana.
It could be. It literally could be. Yeah. It could be. Because, the belief is the work is so strenuous and so long and arduous that you cannot do it in one life. That is the whole point. Henry Ford even thought that. He when he grabbed onto the whole concept of reincarnation when he was young. And I believe he said something like, what did he say? It was that basically he wasn't worried about all these deadlines anymore because he knew that if he couldn't do it this time around, he would eventually be able to finish it. And that's a good way to look at it, I guess. I mean, maybe if more people thought of things that way, either A, we wouldn't get anything done, or B, we'd have less stressed people. I'm not sure which.
Right.
Yeah.
So
what thoughts on that? The Lama. What's your thoughts? I mean,
when you're looking at the Dalai Lama and the predictions, like for example, when they say that I'm going to be here, follow that. And like, they'll give those floor plans out essentially. Like they'll map
Literally.
it out for their followers on where this is where I'm going to be, go find me kind of thing.
Yep.
Like
Look,
I could do that right now. And then we could find a kid and tell that person that, oh, well, you're Joe Purdue.
but that's not what they did.
Right. Well, in this case, you're right. In this case, you're right. Because this kind of worked in reverse. But in a lot of cases, that is how it has worked in the past. And you know, it could be suggestion. It could be this spirit moves from one to the next. It's really, really hard to say, but this is another one of those things because it's a kid.
Mm-hmm.
You have
It
the
is.
kid that's got
It's
the
a kid.
memories and then
Starts talking,
Right.
realizes, the self-awareness that comes about. This is what happens. And that's the weird part about it. We're not talking about these kids seeing a video or a picture or, it might trigger it, but that's all it should do. So then the question comes down to parapsychology. And that's where it gets really interesting to me because, again, we're dealing with the same kind of things. We're talking about information storage and retrieval. And is the image, the picture, the bedtime story, the whatever prompt or cue, is that somehow triggering this ability that we all have? All of us have it. Now, we probably have it better when we're kids. At least that's what most people do think, right?
Yeah.
Like, is that how that works? Like, I start telling you about, or I show you a picture of an old house and boom, you just remote viewed it. You know what I mean? Like, is that natural? That's what I'm trying to get at. It's like, it kind of seems like that's a part of everything. We can all do this. Like every single one of us, none of us are any special or any different.
There's so much of our brain that we don't.
Right.
use.
Exactly. And when we're young, it's unfiltered. That's what I'm getting at. So is it possible that, I flashed that picture of that old house and you see exactly, boom. And now you've imprinted that memory onto your own. Is that a possibility too? You see?
Oh, speaking of that, I have another dream that I can remember that I
We won't
wondered
talk
for a
about
while
that.
if it might be a past life dream.
Go ahead. I'm all ears.
I've been having this dream since I was like probably 4 years old. So I'm walking up this stone pathway to this house, and there's a screen door. And behind the house, I can remember seeing like tall buildings, like a city skyline, and it's nighttime. And I'm struggling to walk up this path, like something's wrong with me. And I open the screen door, and then I manage to get the front door open, and I collapse. That's the dream, basically.
Wow.
I've had the same dream repeatedly since I was like 4 years old, and it happens every now and then.
So you're having a dream of your death.
Yeah, something like that.
Wow, that's a deep one, man.
Like, is it a past life or are you dreaming of old man Brandon?
I don't know.
Seeing the future? Seeing the future?
It's not
Seeing the
this
future
house,
past?
unless I move again.
I mean, dude, there are so many weird things, I don't even know. I don't know where to even start as far as it goes with trying to figure it all out. But
I wanted to bring that up to Ike, but I missed that episode.
You know who is actually interested in all this, and it should become no surprise to anyone.
Oh,
Yep.
Oh, of course.
mm-hmm.
Robert Bigelow, Mr. Skinwalker Ranch himself.
Mr. Spooky. Yep. Surprise, surprise. He's now interested in, he's gone after UFOs and skinwalkers, and now he's, I guess, gone after the afterlife and trying to prove that it exists. And he actually has $1 million prize, guys. If
He
you
does.
can prove,
Put $1 million bounty on if you can prove the afterlife.
Yep. And there's actually stages to the documentation that you have to follow. Like, he's not just going to take anyone's, So you little paranormal clubbers out there who think that you're going to get an EVP and Mr. Bigelow is going to give you $1 million, ain't going to happen. Just going to let you know that right now.
Yeah.
He's going to require a little bit more evidence before he hands over $1 million to you. But
How many
it is.
applications he's had so far for that?
I wonder, because the man, dude, he has been into just about anything and everything paranormal, I think, that you can think of.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think it's really awesome because I was doing the research I did about him. It was really cool because he had said that, when he was younger, he always wanted to do something in ufology or anything else. And he said, if I ever had enough money to do it, he would make it happen. And he kind of made a little contract to himself. And there you go.
It was.
There we are. Here we are today. I mean,
Man, it'd be great if he would pour some of his money into Bigfoot research.
well, he has poured a lot of his money into stuff without people knowing it. The same way that what's his name does, Brandon Fugel.
Oh yeah,
Get his name right here in a minute. Same thing, man. I mean, these guys are putting their they're just doing it quietly. They're funding people very, very, very quietly. So that's I think it's kind of cool. I think that's one of the really cool things about Bigelow is
how do we know Fugel doesn't work for Bigelow and he just handed him the keys?
I don't think he does. I don't think he does, but we don't know. But I don't think he does. So yeah, I mean, maybe one day we'll figure out some more of this stuff. But as of right now, we're faced with several possibilities to explain it. I'm not going to say hoax. I don't think these are hoaxes. I don't think 2,500 of these are hoaxes.
There's too much to be coincidence, too much to be hoax.
Right.
I mean, there are some that you could probably rule out as a hoax. Clearly, I mean, the University of Virginia did that themselves, I'm sure, when they were going through their stuff. But you've got several cases here that do seem to at least show proof of a past life of some sort.
Yeah. And again, we only went with the kids. I only wanted to go with the kids because we can find cases of, adults all day long, but I have to question those.
And I mean, I could sit and tell you a very detailed story that I could just come up with off the cuff, just knowing certain historical figures and minor figures through history, and then go through and rattle information off being,
it's
an
too
adult.
easy.
But the kids are too hard to, you're not going to get that kind of detail.
Right. Exactly. And, there's actually a really good book that, what's his name wrote there. Let me find the name of that for you guys, because, it's Return to Life, Extraordinary Cases of Children Who Remember Past Lives. That's by Dr. Tucker. And if you want something that has actual more cases of kids, because I think that's where that's the proof of something to me. And as Joe's saying, you can't really get that kind of data by they're not going to make it up, is what we're getting at.
Like, you ready to get, I'm ready to get stones thrown at me real quick.
Oh,
I'm because this is my beef with the ones with adults. Because I've heard a lot, okay, of these stories from various people, and this is before Wild and Weird.
Yeah.
Like, this was actually whenever I was actively, like, practically full-time ministry, and I was going out and doing outreach and talking to people. And my biggest hang up with adult stories is that the majority of them all seems to have some sort of connection to Atlantis. And they all recount Atlantis differently. They're, if their stories of what Atlantis was like, if there was congruency, if there was consistency, then I would be like, there might be something to this that I need to dig into a little bit deeper. But so many of them, but practically all of them, were so far over the place. And I think one of the more bizarre ones that I had heard was after we'd started Wild and Weird, and I contacted Ron immediately after I spoke with this individual, and this I had just left one of my Rite Aid stores, and they had given me this very detailed story, elaborate story, very very intimate details, and like they were claiming to be one of the people in the top of this tech device that they overloaded, and that nobody would listen to them, and that, you know, then this device overloaded and exploded and destroyed Atlantis. And that is a popular belief among people who research Atlantis, that they had technology that caused their civilization to essentially go off the rails and eradicate themselves. But you know,
kind of like AI.
Yeah, kind of like AI to a degree, you know. But there's so many of these stories from adult cases that all reference back to Atlantis, Lemuria, something of that nature. And there's very little consistency. So many different accounts of different descriptions of buildings. Like they'll all describe a specific temple, but they'll describe it differently. So are they from this Atlantis? Or are they from Atlantis from another dimension? Are we having bleed over here? Or what are we having going on? You know, why are there so many inconsistencies? That, for me, is my big disconnect with a lot of the adult stories. Like, and I think that would at least make sense for you guys why I would have that sort of a disconnect on that.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. And, you know, as far as adult stories, there is Edgar Casey, but we're saving that.
Yeah, that's going to be a whole episode.
For the whole Casey episode, which will be coming up. But there's some good evidence right there from an adult. And, boy, yeah, that was before
Casey. Aren't there some predictions of his that are supposed to be happening soon about things that are supposed to be?
There are a few that are coming up. Yeah,
there's a few that are. There's a few.
I think I remember something,
and some that already happened.
There's a few that's happening right now. You know, in the pyramid and so forth. So you know, Hall of Records, all that fun stuff. So
yeah,
you know, there's some really cool stuff. But we'll get into that.
What wasn't Edgar Casey? And this is just me going back over the notes real quick in my head briefly. Mm-hmm. He was one that first came out and said that there were no pharaohs ever put in the pyramids. Is that right?
I cannot remember. I just no.
For whatever reason, I'm thinking he was one of the first people that said that the pharaohs. You're not going to find a pharaoh in a pyramid. That's not what they were for.
I don't know.
Well, I know in the Great Pyramid, Khufu's pyramid, they're still trying to find his tomb. They have found that one.
That's because it'll be in the Valley of the Kings.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like what Giorgio had said the other day there at the thing. He said, you know, the only reason that they believe that it's Khufu's pyramid, he's like, and he's seen it. He's like, it's only mentioned on one clay tablet, and the clay tablet's like this big, and they found it near the pyramid. That's it. That was the only reason that they think that that's that.
Yeah,
there's never been a body
like 100 yards from it.
What is it?
That's the thing. Here's the thing with the Great Pyramid. Like, let's just say that little clay tablet.
Yeah.
Like, Khufu could have just said, "Hey, yeah, we're going to build this." That doesn't mean it's his tomb.
He could have also laid claim to it because they did that, and we saw him do that here with the mounds. It's
they
the
did
same
very
thing
well do that.
Pyramid. It's funny because like 1,000 years after Khufu, another pharaoh discovered it because the top of it was poking through the sand.
Yep, right. It was covered up by sandstorms.
Right.
And then they dug around and found that tablet that told us.
Think about it. Just think about it, man. I mean, the stuff that's buried there. Come on.
Yeah.
It's 300
that
feet
desert
of
is
sand.
Just as alive as the ocean. It just moves way slower.
That desert holds every bit of our past. As far as I'm concerned, there are things in that desert, and they know it. There are things in that desert, that whole area, that could rewrite human history instantly. And it wouldn't take 50 years of study. It would be like, oh crap.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that little meme that goes around with the dinosaur eating the UFO.
Yeah.
This complicates things. Yeah,
yep.
Exactly. It's kind of like that. So, you know, another tangent. We do that on this show. But anyway, so the whole concept of reincarnation, I think we all agree there's some kind of information transfer that's going on. I think that's fair to say, right?
Yeah, there's something happening because otherwise these kids wouldn't be having these experiences, specifically the children.
So either it's a a reincarnated soul, or it's a information transfer, or maybe it's tapping into the energy. I mean, after all, that is what we are. We're energy.
Right.
So who's to say? I don't know what we do. I mean, it's hard to say. I don't remember. I mean, I couldn't tell you what I did the last time I was around here. I mean, I can tell you a couple of things I did and a few before that, but I can't remember the exact last time. But and the whole thing is it all gets scrambled, and I don't think you're supposed to remember it all. If you did, it would drive you crazy. Could you imagine? I mean, and I think that's also why, Brandon, and you guys were talking about, this kid 1945 and then 2000. Well, think about that. Most of the people that he knew have already gone at that point.
Yeah, they were all dead.
Yeah. So you got to really wonder again about this grand design of things, and how we can't muck things up. And whether that may be a part of it, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting to me. But there are instances where people have found, their immediate family members, like they allegedly just passed a few years and jumped in. Those are kind of weird too. But
oh yeah,
they're not all like that. A lot of them are much more.
Well, one of the ones that we had touched on in the last episode we did was like literally the same day that one of their husbands had passed away. This kid was born across the country. And then was like, I need to get my wife this message. I need to get my wife this message. They tracked her down, gave her the message, and she like broke down. I mean, that's one of the cases where it was instant.
It's weird stuff. And then you were talking about the whole Lemuria thing and Atlantis thing. Now, I have my own beliefs on that as well. It's almost like the Titanic thing. We've talked to many, many people who were reincarnated, say they're reincarnated from, the Titanic incident. Well, there's more reincarnated souls who think they were on the Titanic than were actually on the Titanic at this point. Right. And, but that doesn't mean that they're not real to me. That means, again, did they tap into that recorded part of history, that tragedy, that energy that was released? You know what I mean?
And this could just be thanks to the History Channel and things like that. But there's more congruency with the Titanic cases, with the even though there are more people who claim to have been reincarnated survivors or reincarnated from the dead of the Titanic, there's at least more consistency there. You know what I mean? Like they're describing events that those are pretty well documented. Yeah, that's what the blueprints say. But the bad thing is we don't have the blueprints. And I firmly do believe, I am diehard. I'm an Atlantis believer.
But what do you think Atlantis was?
I think it was very likely either there are two options in my head.
Earth base 1? Or
option
2?
That's option 2. Option 1 is that it was just a more advanced, technologically advanced society that just so happened to not be smart enough to realize that there's big glaciers that are melting over on the ice caps. And as these ice caps diminish and melt, that water doesn't just go nowhere and the oceans rise, and Atlantis is actually setting at the bottom of an ocean. And, that's option 1. Option 2 is that it very well could have been like Earth base 1, like Ron said. I'll buy in on that one. We know so little about it that's just as viable as an option. And it's one of the better entertaining ones to go look into because it does seem to have some viability.
There's a lot of legends. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And if you don't know what we're talking about, go back and watch Lost Civilizations, I believe was the name of the episode.
I think so, yeah.
That we just did there this season. It's a good one. It's a really good one. One of my favorite ones, honestly, that we did this past season, I think.
But yeah, it's just the inconsistencies on what Atlantis was like.
Mm-hmm.
That's for me. And I know that might be just something minute.
Well, you have to understand, Joe, not everybody got to touch the crystals.
Well, but even the people the lady that I talked to that said she did.
I'm messing with you.
I know. But she's one of the ones that said she did. And it just, I don't know. there's just a lot of with that one specifically. And
well, folks, we want to know if you're from Atlantis. Contact the show. We want to talk to you, possibly put you on the show.
Yeah, we would. That'd be a great live.
It would be an awesome story. I'm not making fun of you either.
No. Like even though I'm laughing, like I laugh a lot.
He does laugh a lot. He laughs at stupid stuff that he shouldn't laugh at. We all do sometimes. But no, we're not making fun of you in any way or form as far as that goes. It would be wonderful to actually talk to someone who actually believes that they were from Atlantis or Lemuria or Mu or any of those lost continents. If you were, some kind of a incarnation or walk-in or whatever the term is for it, by all means, contact the show.
And like I said earlier, we all three ascribe to this rule is that we will never tell you that you did not experience what you're claiming to experience. Like, even though that, we were talking about what we're talking about, like, well, I'm not going to look you dead in the eye and say, no, you didn't. Like, I want to know your story. Yeah. I want to hear what you've experienced. Tell us, especially with this pertaining, if you believe that you had a past life and lived in one of these lost civilizations, like that would be one of the coolest shows to just sit and talk.
Yeah. And, it's just information gathering. And I think that it would be a great show. Speaking of ancient civilizations and lost knowledge, we're going to be doing a special at some point coming up on I believe the crystal skulls, right?
Yeah, that's another episode coming up here real soon, guys.
Yep, gonna drag the crystal skull out and let you guys
have Harrison Ford on.
No,
I mean,
I don't think so.
Probably, I don't think we can afford that bill.
Can't afford Harrison Ford, but you know what we can afford?
Ovilus.
Oh,
that's right.
Last time we turned that on, I made my screen glitch.
So let's
leave that Ovilus on.
Let's ask the Ovilus some questions about Atlantis.
No, let's do a time travel experiment because we already did. Okay, we're recording this episode now, and tomorrow's the live, right? Yeah. Because
Thursday.
There's 2 days from now.
2 days from now. Sorry, time travel. 2 days from now will be the live. So let's ask the Ovilus a question that it should only be able to answer when we turn it back on Thursday for that particular special as well. So we have to figure out how to do this. Let's see. Well, actually, it's not saying anything.
Ask it something first.
Are you on? There's a question. Hello. Let's put it up here. Let you guys see it. It says on. Man, it was chatty when we turned it on earlier, wasn't it?
It was. It wouldn't shut up.
Nobody there, I guess. Well, that's disappointing.
Will we get somebody from Atlantis to talk to us?
Yeah. Any Atlanteans?
Yeah.
No Atlanteans want to come on to the show? No Atlanteans.
Is the volume on?
Volume's on. There's no words. Wow.
Silence, huh?
Looks like we've been canceled on the other side, guys. Wow. Check that out.
That's a first.
Ratings were so low.
Funny when you want it to predict the future, Southern doesn't want to talk to us.
So the other dimension just shut us out completely. No multi-dimensional messages. No contact. It's just open lines and nothing's there. So that's great. Anyway, well, we'll turn that back on, I guess, Thursday during the live.
If we have better luck yesterday.
Yeah. Let's see if we have better luck yesterday. This is sad.
The live show is going to be pretty.
Yeah, I'm just going to leave it on because it's not saying anything. So let's just leave it on.
Oh, it's still on and it's not said anything yet?
No, it's still on.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
Man.
Yeah, it's never done that. That's just weird. Nothing.
Hey, Ovilus, was my dream a past life dream or is it a future
Can you?
prediction?
Yeah. It doesn't care, Brandon.
I guess
Yeah,
It doesn't care.
you're
It's
not on its
just,
level.
it doesn't care. We're just peons to the Ovilus tonight. So thank you,
try to talk to us psychically.
Ovilus.
Well, guys, if you've liked what you've heard here and you enjoyed the show, join us next week for our live episode on YouTube.
Clouded.
Because
Clouded.
clouded.
You heard it here. Clouded.
Clouded your mind is.
Come. Clouded. Come.
So if you enjoy what you've seen here on Wild and Weird Radio, join us on our live show next Thursday.
That's
on
what it
YouTube.
literally just said. It said, look, come. So come see us.
One of us.
Wow.
One of us. Join the live show, subscribe, and get notifications anytime we go and produce anything for YouTube. Also, if you want to and you're listening on Apple, go ahead and give us a 5-star rating and review. We would appreciate it. We really don't care how you review the show. 5-star rating, though. That's the key point.
Even if you're time travelers.
Yes, even if you're time travelers. So if you're listening to us on any other podcast platform, thank you very much. If you want to keep supporting the show for eons to come, we're going to have some really cool stuff posted up in the shop on our website very soon. We've just got to iron some kinks out, and we're going to be posting up directly to our website. That's going to be our goal, and we're going to get you guys over there into our shop that's on the actual website itself. And I think that's going to be a really fun way to interact with you guys again, and you'll be able to get some stuff from us directly. Keep on the lookout for opportunities to come and hang out with us at various events. We have coming up in the near future, we've got the Dave Sprinks World of Weird. We're going to be at MonsterCon. Then we're going to be a couple weeks after that, we are going to be at Ohio Bigfoot in Salt Fork, Ohio. And then a couple weeks after that, we're going to be at the Wood Booger Jamboree, which is, of course, our show. And if you're interested in vending, go ahead and go over to the website, and you can hit the www.wildandweirdwb.com and hit the vendor tab, and you can apply to be a vendor at Wood Booger. It's extremely affordable. It's an outdoor, family-friendly show, free to attend, and the vendor cost is dirt cheap for a vendor show, guys.
Oh, it absolutely is.
And for you guys to come and sell your wares, we're charging bare minimum.
One of the good things about Wood Booger is it's just a really fun event. It's not a bunch of stuffy speakers, which, hey, we are stuffy speakers.
Yeah, we are the stuffy. Well, we're not too stuffy. We're kind of, we're entertaining.
We're entertaining, but we're still speakers, but it's not a bunch of that stuff. So this isn't like one of those situations where you're going to go and pile into a room and listen. Not that there's anything wrong with that. We do that at other events.
We had over 1,000 people last year, and they were cruising all around the park. They all had a good time. There was different things going on. We do have talks. We have a couple of talks go on underneath one of the shelters, but they're not like big lectures or anything. We sit and talk to you guys. Kind of like how the radio show goes.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. And we bring out a couple of casts and let you guys see them. And we'll talk about some of our past investigations and whatnot. And you can ask questions. It's basically a Q&A kind of thing is what it is. And it's a lot of fun. And we had a lot of people who were actually interested in that last year.
We did.
So definitely you want to come out for that. It'll be a lot of fun. And if you've got your own experiences, come out and share those as well. Because, it's a good place. It's a lot of fun. You got a lot of vendors, and the food. Oh man,
God. The food vendors we got coming are fantastic. We've also got we're working on the dates for a Bigfoot workshop in late June. So just keep an eye out for that. It's going to be late June, middle of July is the time frame we're looking at to nail that down. So that's going to be a good time. Again, that is the Bigfoot workshop. We're going to be announcing dates for that here soon. I've just got to get with the
just keep watching
and you get that done.
Figure out what's going on. But there's a lot of stuff going on. So you'll catch us out on the road at some point, I'm sure. And there's going to be a upgrade to the radio this year.
Oh yeah, we're going to have a whole completely different road show.
Yep. Very cool.
Back in the day, we used to, with the reptile stuff, we used to bring the show atmosphere because Ron and I were both performers. What's this?
Murphy. I don't know.
Murphy. Ron and I were both performers in different bands. And we brought the road show with us to these reptile events, and we're going to start doing that now with
leather.
With leather.
Leather. I'm going to start wearing leather pants.
No.
Oh, yes.
No.
That's what we meant by bringing the road show.
Telepathy.
Of course. That's always one of them. Legion is next. So guys,
Legion.
come out. I called it.
Time travel. You did it.
All right, guys. You heard it here on Wild and Weird Radio. The Ovilus is here hanging out. And we got it and called a response. That's hilarious.
That was great.
All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. It's been a blast. And remember,
eat your vegetables.
Stay wild and weird.